Welcome back to another episode of Lore and Loot. Now, we've been traipsing around the Bitter Coast for a few days now, exploring the area surrounding the small fishing village of Seyda Neen. One day, while chatting with Ariel at his trade house, he'll tell us that we should go practice our skills on some smugglers down in the cave by the Silt Strider platform. That cave is called Addamassartus. Note that you can also receive this prompt from Eldifier, the Altmer woman walking around outside, if you ask her about a little advice. She'll tell you that the guards are not doing anything about the smugglers in the cave, that you should go take care of it. Addamassartus is but one of the many caves and grottos we will run across as we explore Vardenfell, and I suppose this is a good enough time to explore our first cave. Now, smugglers sound dangerous, so I'm going to go ahead and stock up on some scrolls just in case. I'm going to go ahead and run to the cave entrance as well to train my athletic skill, of course, but I'm going to stop and catch my breath before entering because with your fatigue low, your likelihood to hit is diminished. Now, the cave is dimly lit, and we see a small campfire next to an overturned rowboat. Wandering around the campfire is the lookout for the cave, the Dunmer thief, Tanisi Varethi. She attacks us on sight, but she doesn't put up much of a fight. In her inventory is just a few drakes, but we do find the Addamassartus slave key. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of metagaming here and prepare my Summon Skeleton Scroll, because this next fight is a doozy. Malar Barum is a Dunmer battle mage, and he will kill a low-level character that gets within melee range easily. Malar starts off with a few ranged spells. I think it might be like a weakness to fire or weakness to magicka spell. I'm not entirely sure. But once he's done with that, he moves in to attack with a fire damage spell on touch. That is absolutely devastating to low-level characters. The trick really is to keep your distance from him and force him to use ranged magic until he's out of magicka, and then move in for the kill, since then he only has a small dagger on him. I summoned a skeleton and tried to use it to distract him, but it didn't work. He died all the same. Now finally we can run down deeper into the cave and deal with the assassin, Mulvisi Othril. She'll use throwing stars against us, and while they don't do a lot of damage, they do stagger us, so they can be a little obnoxious. However, if you back her into a corner, she won't stand much of a chance. And now we can loot the crates. The big payout here is the skooma and the moon sugar that these guys are smuggling. We find a few bottles in the crate, along with some pillows, and the moon sugar we find in a barrel nearby with some other alchemic ingredients. Now, skooma and moon sugar are both highly illegal in Morrowind, but we're going to go more into that a little bit later. There's a back passage here, and we can open the gate with the keys we found. Now, I installed some mods to make water ripples here. This isn't a vanilla game, so if your game doesn't look like this, that's probably why. I do recommend installing some visual mods if you're playing Morrowind today. But anyway, after killing this rat, we find some remains of apparently a thief that died in this cave. The thief's ring here is a really nifty early game ring. It's an enchanted common ring that fortifies speed, agility, and personality for 5 points each for 30 seconds. Continuing up this path, we can make a giant loop and end up where we fought Melar. Now we see this locked gate at the top of the stairs. Unlocking it with the Addamassartus slave key, we notice that these guys were keeping slaves here. So these guys were smuggling slaves. Now with the key, we can free Badargo, a Khajiit, and his two Argonian counterparts, Okao and Benals. Some of these names, I tell you. Freeing these slaves, of course, makes them like us quite a lot. And if we free enough slaves, something may happen in the future, so just keep that in mind for now. Now, in the vanilla game, if you release slaves from their cave capturing container, they'll actually remain in the cave for the rest of the game. However, if you download the Morrowind patch project or a mod that fixes some of the bugs, they will actually vanish when you leave the cave, which makes a lot more sense, of course. Freeing the slaves also makes them drop their slave bracers. They are enchanted armor pieces, and we can actually sell them, but they're really not that valuable considering they're, enchanted. I thought they would be worth more, so not really worth carrying around. Although, thinking about it, it is odd that these smugglers were smuggling slaves, though, isn't it? Slavery is legal in Morrowind, as I discussed in a previous episode. As we continue exploring Vardenfell, we'll actually discover whole slaver markets, where we can purchase slaves ourselves. Why, then, are these smugglers smuggling slaves? Maybe they stole them, and are keeping them here until the new buyer comes and gets them. Or, they stole this lot from the rightful owners, like a plantation nearby, and are transporting them elsewhere. Who knows, honestly. Regardless, we've done a good deed by freeing these poor guys. Now, as far as skooma and moon sugar. Moon sugar is an illegal narcotic in the Elder Scrolls universe. It comes from refining the cane grasses in Elswere's coastal region. Elsewhere, of course, being the country or the province where the Khajiit come from. The Khajiit love skooma. It's actually of some cultural significance to them, and they use it to season their food, so travelers are told to be careful what they eat when they are in Elsewhere. However, the real thing about moon sugar is that it can be refined into the highly, highly addictive skooma. Now, as I mentioned before, both items are illegal, and if you ever get stopped by a guard after having been caught committing a crime, they will actually confiscate both skooma and moon sugar if you have them in your inventory. Additionally, most merchants will not even trade with you while you have either of them in your inventory. Now, if you come across a Khajiit trader, they will actually go ahead and continue to trade with you, and even certain Khajiit traders will purchase the stuff from you. Now, in Morrowind specifically, Skooma increases your speed and strength, and decreases your intelligence and agility for 20 points each, which lasts for 60 seconds. Now, despite its incredibly addictive nature in the game lore, using it in Morrowind does not actually have any long-term ill effects. Each bottle is worth 500 septims, so it's actually not a bad item to collect and then go to your favorite Khajiit trader and make a tidy profit. I think it would have been cool if you could have gotten addicted to skooma and stuff like that, like you can in Fallout with the chems. But anyway, moon sugar can be used in alchemy. It's an alchemical ingredient. Its first alchemical effect is to fortify speed. So you can actually make some fortify speed potions if you have another ingredient with this first effect. It also has the properties of dispel, drain endurance, and drain luck. Now, we're not done with the cave. There's one last bit of cave to explore. At the very bottom of the stairs, there's a small pool which we can actually dive into. On the other end, we find a chest with some minor randomized loot and a skeleton with nothing of interest on it. It looks like he died fishing with a basket. Well, we can now head back to Seyda Neen and sell our stuff. And that's going to do it for the Smuggler Cave of Addamassartus. It's a cave with a strange name, but as we will see, a lot of the locations in Vardenfell are actually named in really strange ways. Likely, this cave gets its name from ancient Dunmer naming conventions, probably from the Ashlanders or something, because their names are pretty odd too. This will not be the weirdest name we come across in this game, believe me. But look at this view. You know, you expand the draw distance a little bit, water visuals upgraded a tiny bit, and the lighting effects brought up to more modern standards. And man, Morrowind really is a nice looking game. But anyway, we're almost done here in Seyda Neen. We're going to wrap things up in the next episode of Lore and Loot Morrowind. See you then.